And thank you to the History and Political Science departments and the Politics Club for the opportunity to speak at this wonderful event. I'm here today to discuss the alternative to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. That is the libertarian ticket of Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. Gary Johnson and Bill Weld are both former two-term conservative governors, Johnson of New Mexico and Weld of Massachusetts, both of which are traditionally blue states. During Johnson's time in office in New Mexico, he cut taxes 14 times while never raising them. He balanced the state's budget and left New Mexico with $1 billion surplus. Although he cut taxes and reduced the size of the government, he still improved New Mexico's schools and executed a major infrastructure overhaul. In 1994, Governor Weld, as a Republican, won re-election in Massachusetts with a record-breaking 71% of the vote, a record that still stands today. Governor Weld cut taxes 21 times despite the state legislature being controlled by the Democrats. In 1992, he was rated the most fiscally conservative governor in the United States by the Wall Street Journal. And more importantly, the unemployment rate in Massachusetts plummeted from the highest among the 11 industrialized states to the lowest by the end of his first term. Although fiscally conservative, Governor Weld has also been a champion for social tolerance. He was an early proponent for civil rights for gays and lesbians. He appointed the judge who wrote the opinion that established marriage equality as a matter of constitutional right. If Governor Weld and Johnson were able to do all this for New Mexico and Massachusetts, imagine what they could do for America if we only gave them a chance. The Libertarian Party's platform revolves around the ideas of being socially liberal and fiscally conservative. This means on some issues, libertarians will find themselves agreeing with Democrats, and on other issues, they will find themselves agreeing with the Republicans. I know it sounds pretty crazy. Libertarians agree with the Democrats in that they stress personal freedoms, civil liberties, a non-interventionist foreign policy, separation of church and state, and a less strict immigration policy. On the other side of the coin, libertarians agree with Republicans when it comes to economic freedoms, a robust national defense, respecting one's property rights, the right to bear arms, and lowering taxes. The Libertarian Party believes that the function of a government should be to just defend our rights, leaving individuals to pursue their own interest. That person's freedoms should not be taxed, and furthermore, the failed war on drugs be brought to a halt. Libertarians also hold that the United States should stop nation building through regime change and stop being the policeman of the world. It is possible to obtain peace through trade and diplomacy. Libertarians support small business, entrepreneurship, the free market, and an easier pathway to citizenship. Most importantly, libertarians are the champions of civil liberties and the protectors of personal property. Using this platform and limited funds, the Johnson and Weld campaign has been able to get their message to a portion of the American public, and those who have taken the time to listen have liked what they have heard. The libertarian ticket of Johnson and Weld is currently polling around 10% of the electorate, even though 70% of the voters claim they don't know who they are. A poll released by a combined effort of a few pro-military organizations found that Gary Johnson was the preferred candidate of our fighting men and women and their families. Johnson led this poll with a total of 36% of the vote. According to a study from the Pew Research Center, Johnson polls at 23% with voters under the age of 30. The Washington Post published a poll that had libertarian ticket at 15% or above in 15 different states. Even if one would not go as far as to say they will vote libertarian, they at least want to hear what they have to say. A university-published poll showed 62% of likely voters nationally say that Libertarian Party should be included in the presidential and vice presidential debates this year. This brings up the question of if the party's candidate is qualified, their policy makes sense, and they are polling fairly strongly, why don't I hear more about them, or why are they not taking part in the debates, like the vice presidential debate happening at my school? Who gets to take part in the debates is decided upon the Commission of Presidential Debates, or the CPD. The CPD is a private organization originally created by the Republican and Democratic parties 30 years ago. Their purpose was to take control of the only nationally televised presidential debates voters will see. At the time of the creation, the leaders of the CPD made no effort to hide the fact that they did not want any third-party intrusions. They have set forth qualifications, and they are as follows. First, the candidate must be constitutionally eligible to hold office of the President of the United States. Second, they must have achieved ballot access in a sufficient number of states to win a theoretical electoral college victory. And third, and the trickiest, they must have demonstrated a level of support of at least 15% of the national electorate as determined by 5 selected nationally public opinion polls. These public opinion polls being selected by the CPD. The only time a third-party candidate has been allowed on the stage was Ross Perot in 1992, when both parties wanted him on the stage for their own purposes. He did not meet the qualifications set forth by the CPD. It should be noted that when Perot was allowed on stage, polls showed his support to be in single digits below where Johnson and Weld are currently polling. We are tired of a rigged system, and the monopoly on debates created by the CPD is a prime example of this. If the CPD does not allow Governor Weld to debate, they are stifling the voices of millions of voters. The CPD may scoff at a ticket that shows 10% in their hand-picked polls, but even 10% represents roughly 13 million voters. To put that into context, this is the equivalent of the CPD telling the entire state of Pennsylvania, the entire population, hey, we don't really care about your political opinion. I hold firm in my belief that if allowed to take place in the national debates, the ticket of Johnson and Weld has the ability to not only positively influence the future of American politics, but to shape the White House in 2016. The First Amendment grants the right of the people to peacefully assemble. It is time for us to exercise that right and send a message to the CPD that Longwood students, like many other Americans, want Governor Weld to be on the debate stage for the vice presidential debate on our campus. Please join me tomorrow at noon on Brock Commons until 2:30, just outside the Student Union, to continue to fight and provide a voice for alternatives, independents, disenfranchised Republicans and Democrats, millennials, and others who are not satisfied with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as their options. So what do you say, Longwood? Are you in? Thank you very much for your time. Please enjoy the debate between these two excellent clubs.